What have been some of the best freedoms that you've had since leaving your narcissist?
Not having to defend myself against false accusations, not having to walk on eggshells and feel like, oh, when I get home from work today, is it going to be, um, is he going to react in a negative way because I tell him to leave me alone while I'm putting the groceries away, which is a very normal, get out of the kitchen. But
Yeah.
he would take that as a rejection because narcissists can't handle rejections.
Yeah.
They can't handle disappointment. So it was like the slightest little thing, I walked on eggshells, and the slightest little thing could turn into a major blowout that would take hours and hours of my time that evening, with me having to talk until I was blue in the face, trying to reason with him and getting nowhere. So not
Mhm.
having to deal with that anymore is a really great feeling. And we are still in contact. I went a very long time with no contact, but I was hoovered again. I was hoovered last year, and then I was dumped again within 7 weeks of another apology and another promise. I was dumped again, but now I have the power to hang up the phone, and I hang up on him. I don't, if he starts talking in a way or behaving in a way that's making me have flashbacks or get uncomfortable. Goodbye. I'm not talking to you.
It's awesome. That's
Mhm.
awesome. So, what made you write a book? You are an author. Show us the book.
Yeah, so this is the book.
So
I will
cool.
I will ruin your life.
And what does the title mean?
The title is actually something that he said to me a week before we were getting married. I was walking through the living room one day, um, going to get a cup of coffee, and he was sitting in this recliner that he had in his living room, and he had this like ashen stone look on his face. I walked by him, and he said, "Don't marry me. I will ruin your life." And I just froze because I thought, like, has this ever happened in the history of marriage that a husband says that to their wife a week before they were getting married? Again, another red flag that I just kind of let go over my head. I thought it was just nerves, so I sat down and talked to him, and I was like, "It's okay. Everything's going to be fine. You're just nervous." And then it went away. That moment, that fleeting moments of realization passed, and I found out later about another woman that he had been engaged to in another country. I found out later a lot of the things that he had said about her were exactly the things that he did to me. He told me how crazy she was and how she would throw him out of the house and lock him out. And at the time, I thought, well, I don't know her, but I also know that women don't go crazy for no reason. So there was a little bit of doubt in my mind that the things he was saying about her were true, but I gave him the benefit of the doubt because I wasn't there. I
Yeah.
didn't witness their relationship,
Yeah.
but now I know. um, but I guess he was having, I guess, that fleeting moment of lucidity. Remember, occasionally they have a moment of lucidity. And in the moment of lucidity that he said that to me, "Don't marry me, I will ruin your life," he was having his own remembrance of what he had gone through with this other woman and how he had done the same thing to her and ended up losing her. She was the smart one. She ditched him immediately, whereas I stayed for 8 years. She recognized those red flags immediately and said, "I'm not going to marry you,"
Wow.
and ended their relationship and sent him back to Egypt. So um, I say I would love to find her. I only know her first name and what country she's from, but I would love to find her um, and just kind of say, I wish I could have talked to you before. Um, but getting back to the reason I wrote my book, it was because the day that he walked out the door in 2016, when he was leaving the house officially, I jumped in front of him and I tried to throw myself in front of the door to block him. And I remember saying to him, "Why are you doing this to me?" And he took his finger and pushed it into my chest and like nudged me out of the way. And I said to him, I said, "I'm going to spend the rest of my life talking about this and telling people what you've done to me," because I thought I was the only one who had ever gone through this. And I thought, wow, this will make a terrific book because nobody will believe this story. Nobody else in the world has ever gone through this. Little did I know, um,
Yes.
once I discovered what narcissistic personality disorder was, and once I started finding these groups on Facebook, I realized, wow, I'm just one in a million.
Yes.
I'm just a small percentage. But I decided to write the book anyway because I noticed that there was too much misinformation about what narcissistic personality disorder is. Too many people are confusing it with narcissism, and it's an unfortunate name. I wish the medical community would change it. I read an article where one therapist calls it like avoidance disorder, which is really more what it is. Narcissism is an unfortunate name to be associated with this because it confuses people, and there's so much misinformation. People equate narcissism with zodiac signs or watching pornography, and oh, did your narcissist do this, did your narcissist do that? Now, narcissism is on a spectrum, so it can present differently,
Yeah.
but it's also pathological. That's why we all have similar experiences. When victims talk, we all have the gaslighting, we all have the a lot of the abuse, the emotional abuse, the verbal abuse, because it's pathological, but it does present differently. So the reason I wanted to tell my story was to present it in a way that would help others understand what it truly is,
Hmm.
um, to really clear up some of the confusion and misinformation. And I never try to speak. I get a lot of people that contact me and they want me to say, "This is what my husband or my boyfriend does to me. Is he a narcissist?" And I say, I can't answer that because I can only talk about my experience that I went through. I can't relate that to what you're going through, and I can't say yes for sure. I mean, I wouldn't do that anyway, but it's really hard to diagnose,
Yeah.
because narcissists are really great at putting on that mask and going into therapy, and then all of a sudden after a few weeks they feel all better. When things get back to their version of normal, they
Yeah.
no longer see the need to remain in therapy. So this is why it's so hard to diagnose. And then of course I walk in there looking like the crazy hysterical one,
Hmm.
you know
Yeah.
just just like Gabby Petito looked like the crazy hysterical one. um, so it's so hard to diagnose, and I felt like telling the story would, in the form of a memoir, um, make people see parts of their relationship maybe that are similar, or maybe make them think, oh yeah, this is happening to me, or yeah, that I experienced that. um,
Definitely. I will say, I didn't even, when you just held up that book, I didn't realize how thick the book was because I read it Kindle
oh
version.
yeah. It's
I read that in like a day.
really.
I'm not even kidding. I literally started, I think I think my leg was broken. But I started in the morning. Like you had sent it to me. I think I didn't read it for maybe 3 weeks or so.
Hmm.
And then I was like, okay, I had it in my planner to like read it before our original podcast date. And I had planned it, a few couple weeks before or something because I wanted it to be fresh in my head and would give me time to read like a little bit each day. So I started it in the morning and then I literally didn't put it down. Like I ate breakfast, lunch, and dinner and read the entire thing. Took notes.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so well written. Not to say that I didn't think it was going to be, but a lot of times like you're just like me, like just a person.
Hmm.
So, I was like, oh, it's just going to be like a cute little book, like a little blog or something. But it was amazing. Like you had the beginning of, did you have like descriptions or definitions? You like described or explained stuff in the beginning?
I tried to keep it in total memoir form, but at the end of each chapter, I would try to self-reflect in retrospect of what I know now that I didn't know at the time. I also went back to my childhood and talked about how I was abused by a narcissist
Yeah.
stepmother, and how that set me up, to not have the strong boundaries. Because the
Yeah.
example that I saw my father was also an empath like myself, and was being abused by his narcissistic wife, my stepmother. And I realized at the time that because of that, because of seeing my father stay in the marriage no matter what, that was the example I had to follow. Had
Yeah.
my father said to me, "Oh, this woman is crazy. She's abusing you. She's abusing me. Let's get out of here," I probably would have had a little more sense by the time I encountered the narcissist to say, no, I'm not sticking around for this.
Yeah.
But I had never learned how to set boundaries because I was never taught to, because I saw that happening within my family as a child. And this was another reason why the PTSD hit me so hard, because it was what they call Cptsd, which is complex post traumatic stress disorder, which is the repeated exposure to the same trauma at different times.
I actually just found out about that like last month. So
Mhm,
thank you for bringing that up. I've never even covered that topic on here yet.
mhm.
So thank you for the reminder.
Yeah. So when the PTSD hit me after what I went through with my husband, it was probably more intense because it brought back all those memories from the childhood.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So my book is broken down. I didn't want it to be, there's so many books out there like how to get over a narcissist or how to recognize a narcissist. But again, you can't write a book and say this, and this is narcissistic personality disorder, because it presents in so many different ways. So I thought in memoir form would be better. And I didn't want to have like a lot of descriptions in there, like scientific or medical descriptions. I tried to relate it through my experience
Got
and
it.
say, "Oh, this was gaslighting, or this was
Yeah.
projection." Um, and I looked very critically at myself and my own
Yeah,
behavior.
you
And
did.
I'm really glad that you've realized, or that you noticed that I was very fair to him,
Yeah.
because at the same point, I wanted to be fair to him. It wasn't a book to bash him, although he thinks it is. He thinks it was. He thinks that it's just my intention to bash him. It's not at all. I do feel sorry for him and not sorry at the same time. I feel very sad. Um, for somebody that goes through life really with this intense struggle inside of themselves that they can't break free from. Again, it's not a psychological thing where a pill, is going to fix it. It's not a chemical imbalance. It's not anything like that. It's all comes down to you've got an individual who's stunted in their emotional development, usually
Yes.
somewhere in toddlerhood or early childhood.
Yes.
So they didn't learn proper coping skills. They cannot regulate shame, guilt, and emotional feelings. So
Absolutely.
it's got to be very difficult to to go through a life like this. I mean, I do have a lot of empathy for him, but at the same time, knowing that it's something he has been made aware of numerous times by myself and by his psychiatrist back home. He's had more than enough opportunity to do the right thing and deal with it, which is years of intensive cognitive behavior therapy. He's got to learn how to change his thinking process and get rid of these irrational thoughts. He's got to learn how to change his behavior in certain situations. He's got to learn how to internalize his feelings instead of externalizing them. So I could forgive him if it was like a complete surprise and he was in the dark about this, but he's more than aware that he has it, and he's more than happy to continue to exist like this, because it's easier for him to discard people out of his life every 2 or 3 years if he has to. Not only relationships, but friends, people that he's formed, social activities with. Throw them away and start over. Throw them away and start over.
Yeah.
Uh,
That was actually going to be one of my questions is do you forgive your narcissist?
I will not forgive him without accountability, and he knows this. What I have asked for is accountability, as far as being willing to say, yes, I have this problem, and yes, I need to work on it. Yes, I will let you help me work on it without thinking that you're trying to control me or you're trying to change me. Um, None of that. So, accountability, a sincere commitment to following through with real change. And I'm not saying perfection. I understand people stumble, people fall, and that's totally fine. But when you make an apology, and it can't just be empty words saying I'm sorry, you have to actually change the behavior and stop doing the same thing over and over again.
Yep.
So I will not forgive him without accountability and change.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That's awesome that you are even setting that boundary up because so many people don't. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you saying that.